Hey, everybody. Everybody, Dr. Joe's in the house on this cold Wednesday evening. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. Let me get the folks down on Instagram on board. And yeah, so it should be a good session today. We'll talk about, essentially scaling your business and why you should scale and some of the problems and challenges that you and others have had when we scale our business. So I think it's going to be a good one. The reason why I chose this topic is that given the uncertainty in the environment, the real estate environment, one of the things that a lot of people want to do is to, take advantage of, buying opportunities. Since it's kind of a buyer's market right now in lots of places, and hopefully using this as an opportunity to buy, hold on to your properties, and maybe exit later on. So in essence, scaling your business, while the environment is good. However, scaling is not easy, and I wanted to share with you my experiences since I scaled my business, and some of the advantages, disadvantages, and some of the things to kind of look out for as you go on this journey. So that's the topic. Stay stay lit. I keep the fire going. Your blueprint for scaling without burning out. So keep the fire going without quenching the fire, essentially. As usual, if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box. I'll get to them about 15, 20 minutes from now. And if you want to do a one-on-one with me where we can do a deep dive in any problems, any situations that you have, that you can leverage my 35 plus years experience, you can go to my website, www.joeasimo.com, www.joeasimo.com, and then you can press the Ask Dr. Joe button to book a one-on-one with me, and so on. So check it out. Okay, so stay lit. Your blueprint for scaling without burning out. Well, great slide. So are you growing your real estate portfolio or quietly burning yourself out in the process? It's not easy. Every residential real estate investor, I think, reaches a crossroads at some point, where when we're growing, the opportunities are exciting, yet the pressure, the decisions, the problems, and the responsibilities start really multiplying faster than the wins, i.e., some of the challenges are greater than some of the wins that you think you're getting. Tenants call you inconvenient hours, tenants and toilets and all that trash and all that kind of stuff that you can get calls from. Renovations take unexpected left turns. Your rehab is not working the way it's supposed to be. Contractors disappoint you. Lenders change terms at the last minute. The very success you prayed for really becomes a weight, slowing you down. Many investors, new and experienced alike, find themselves exhausted and overwhelmed and questioning whether the dream is worth the stress. But the truth is this: the investors who survive and thrive aren't always the smartest or the wealthiest. They are the ones who learn how to stay energized, keep the fire going, focused, and mentally grounded as their portfolio expands. Scaling a residential real estate business demands, it's really more than just the spreadsheets, capital, and hustle. Yes, it requires that, but it also requires emotional stamina, clarity, systemized processes, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. Pressures come and go. You got to keep a level head and keep it going. The investors ignore this reality, often hit a breaking point. Deal stalls, properties sit unfinished, tenant issues escalate, and the decision-making process becomes very cloudy. But those who master this blueprint of staying quote-unquote lit, i.e. staying energized, structured, and mentally agile, position ourselves for long-term success without sacrificing their wealth building. So the purpose of today's live stream is to reveal, based on my experiences, real-life lessons learned from investors like myself and also from others who have both soared and struggled. I'm going to share with you some of the good, the bad, the ugly, scaling the portfolio. Not just talk about education; it's really can be transformative. I think this session will be. I'm going to share some strategies and stories and the frameworks that hopefully will form the roadmap, to grow confidently, sustainably, and profitably. Okay, so this is not just a blueprint for. This is your blueprint, I suppose, not just for scaling your portfolio, but for building a business and life that stays energized, resilient, and unstoppable. As usual, I broke it into different sections. Today, I broke it into 5 sections, and I wanted to keep it, reasonably, not too long. And so, 5 sections, and let's get going. Section 1: mastering mental energy and emotional bandwidth. Emotional bandwidth and mental energy. Yes, it can burn you out. So the question is, I suppose, how can you scale your portfolio if your mindset collapses under pressure? How can you scale your portfolio if your mindset collapses under pressure? Yes, it can. I mean, the pressure when you grow can be quite overwhelming sometimes. Well, every investor eventually encounters projects, tenants, or financial setbacks that drain emotional energy. Yes, successful investors, however, have learned that their mental resilience is really not optional. It's foundational. Your resilience, your stamina, to keep it going is really important. When your emotional bandwidth shrinks, huh, even simple decisions feel like overwhelming. Investors who have burnt out often reflect on moments where they allowed stress to dictate reactions rather than strategy. You get so stressed out that you make decisions emotionally, impulsively, and you rush to decisions, overreacting or overcorrected your mistakes, or even retreated from opportunities. Maybe opportunities come in, you're just tired, you just don't want to deal with it, because the emotional load was simply just too heavy. So seasoned investors who remain energized understand that the mental clarity, your clarity, it can be a competitive advantage. We intentionally protect our focus, avoiding chaotic environments, poor time management, or emotionally draining partnerships. I know that we have to look inward and look at what triggers some of these things. What throws you off, what drains you, what distracts you. You got to understand what those are, and then you develop your workflows accordingly. We know where our energy is, that the energy is a power to keep us going, and therefore we have to make sure that we keep it in tune. So many investors fall apart because they underestimate the emotional toll of growth. I mean, it sounds sexy. Yeah, kind of 10x our business, there's 5x our business, there's double our business. It sounds sexy, but it's a lot of work. And sometimes it may not be worth it. You got to be able to get to the finish line, and without getting sort of so despondent that you say I'm quitting. So don't underestimate the emotional toll of growth. Some people believe that the more units that you get, the more cash flow, which can be not always true. But just because you're growing, just because you get more cash flow, doesn't necessarily mean you're more satisfied. You know, Without the emotional margin, the growth amplifies the stress instead of the freedom. So investors who succeed over the long term, treat their mindset management the same way that they treat their finances, something to track, strengthen, and strategically invest in. So when your mind is calm, clear, and energized, you make better decisions. You negotiate more confidently, you manage tenants without frustration, and you recognize the opportunities others miss. So mental stamina is one of the rare differentiators between investors who scale and investors who quit. Your mental stamina. Okay, that's number one. Let's get down to number two. And number two is really about building systems that reduce stress and increase capacity. Building systems that reduce stress and increase capacity. So what am I talking about? The question is, what if your burnout isn't from investing, but it's from lack of systems, lack of structure, lack of processes, lack of roles and responsibilities? You kind of doing everything yourself. So many investors fail not because their deals were bad, but because their systems were non-existent. The difference between overwhelmed investors and empowered ones often comes down to structure. Okay. Successful investors like you and I hopefully operate like real businesses with documented processes for leasing, screening, repairs, communications, bookkeeping, and inspections. Investors who struggle, on the other hand, usually keep everything in their heads. There's no documentation, leading to chaos, forgetfulness, and constant reactive behavior. So, systems allow small mistakes to stay small. They help investors stay organized when multiple projects overlap. So, they streamline communications with tenants and contractors. You've got to streamline that. The idea is to reduce emergencies because expectations, workflows, and timelines are clearly established. So without systems, even the simplest tasks, things like collecting rent, approving repairs, scheduling inspections, it feel like stressful and urgent. So veteran investors who scale sustainably often share the same story. Once they implemented checklists, templates, automations, and repeatable processes, their stress level dropped significantly, while their output doubled. So, meanwhile, investors who ignored systems building found themselves constantly, quote unquote, putting out fires and emotionally exhausted from chasing tasks that should have been automated or delegated. Systems aren't glamorous, they're not, but they are the backbone of a scalable portfolio. You've got to have it. When your processes are clear, your energy stays high, your business stays organized, and your portfolio becomes easier, not harder to manage. Okay, so that's number two. Let's get down to number three. Number three, it's about navigating renovation overload without losing control. Navigating renovation overload without losing control. Okay, let's have a look. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. I just got a quick just got to send a quick message. Okay. Navigating renovation overload without losing control. So the question is, how do you stay energized? How do you stay energized when your renovation feels like it's draining your soul? Those things. You had the rehab from hell. You got the contractors from hell. The project is going over budget. It's taking longer to do. The quality is going downhill. You're stressed out. You're frustrated. You're angry. Money is being drained. You got no money. The contractor wants more money, and you just had it. Okay, how do you stay energized when your renovation feels like it's draining your soul? Renovations are where many investors lose their spark. All it takes is a couple of those things, you're done. The unexpected costs, contractor no-shows, they didn't show up, missed deadlines, failed inspections, and scope creep can all overwhelm even experienced investors. Investors who burnt out, their shares, investors who burn out, they often share stories about renovations that spiraled out of control because they lacked oversight, they didn't have proper communications, or they just weren't emotionally ready for the chaos that's taking place in their project. The stress of daily decisions can often be suffocating. Seasoned investors, however, we remain hopefully energized. We learn to anticipate the disruptions. It's not going to be smooth sailing, so we know things are going to go on, and we plan accordingly. We understand that renovations require calm leadership, not just up and down leadership, but calm, cool head leadership, not emotional reactions. We build buffers into budgets, timelines, and material selections. We hire contractors based on the reputation and accountability, and not just on price. Just because a guy's cheap doesn't mean you should use them. Sometimes you get what you pay for. Sometimes it's just not worth the hassle. And we check progress frequently. We manage expectations, and we maintain control of the scope. So we approach renovations with a mindset of management, not rescue. Management, not rescue. Okay. The investors who thrive through major projects refuse to let renovations consume them. We keep an eye on the strategy and not on the stress. We know that every renovation teaches several things: discipline, timing, and foresight. So, we avoid things like emotional overreaction, because what that leads to is costly mistakes, rush decisions, and unnecessary tensions with your contractors. Three things are guaranteed to happen on the rehab, in my experience anyway. One, it's going to take you longer than you thought it's going to be. Two, it's going to cost you more than what you thought it's going to be. And three, you're going to have a falling out with your contractor at some point during that project. It happens all the time. You just have to assume it's going to happen to you, and you plan accordingly. We take a long view, and we maintain our energy by staying proactive rather than reactive. That's number three. Let's get down to number four. Before we do that, let's just say, if you got some questions, please put it in the chat box, and I'll definitely get to them in about 5 or 10 minutes from now. Anything to the real estate, any problems, challenges you're working on, any projects you're working on, any deals that you want me to kind of discuss, please put them in the chat box. And if you want to book a one-on-one with me, by all means, go to the website, drjoeasamoah.com, and you can schedule a one-on-one with me there. So let's keep on going. Number 4 or 5. Managing tenants, Managing tenants without draining your energy. Managing your tenants without draining your energy. Tenants. What do we do without tenants? Okay, so the question is, how do you keep your sanity when tenants issues pile up? How do you keep your sanity when tenant issues pile up? Well, tenant management is one of the biggest emotional drains for investors. Late payments, complaints, lifestyle conflicts, maintenance requests, and misunderstandings. Laid over dozens and dozens of properties can drain even the most experienced landlords. Investors who burnt out often recall seasons where they allowed tenant chaos to interrupt sleep, cloud decisions, and reduce motivation to grow. You just had enough of these calls from these tenants. Caller ID is your best friend. You screen out, what do they want this time around? Successful investors, however, have learned to create boundaries and communication systems, that prevent burnout. We try to set clear expectations from day one before the tenants move in. We try to document everything. We have structure in terms of communications with the tenant. So you can allow tenants to call you different ways. And also, I think you can be empathetic. You can sympathize. You can, reason with people, but also you have to be firm. We protect our time and energy by being consistent, predictable, and decisive. In my opinion, investors who thrive also learn the power of tenant selection. It's all about the quality of tenant. If you have good tenants, you don't have as many headaches. If you don't screen and you have bad tenants, then your problems multiply. And so it all boils down to tenant selection or screening. We screen for alignment, not desperation. We want to make sure that who's coming to our home is aligned with what we're looking for: a clean, quiet, responsible tenant that's looking to stay a long time. That's what I'm looking for. Hopefully, that's what you're looking for as well. We screen for that, and we choose tenants who value stability and communications. We create mutually respectful relationships, which reduces emotional friction significantly. Over time, we learn that good tenant relationships increase retention, reduces stress, and stabilize cash flow. Hey, managing tenants becomes easier when systems, communication, and boundaries and documentations are in place. The investors who succeed in this keep their emotional energy intact because they manage tenants professionally, not personally. So that's number 4. And then finally, number 5 is protecting your time and prioritizing high value tasks. Protecting your time and prioritizing high value tasks. The question is, what if the real reason you're burning out is because you're doing everything yourself? You're trying to do everything yourself. You're trying to be an island. You're trying to be a one-man show. You're trying to be Superman, Superwoman. You can't do it by yourself. You can't. You have to delegate. You have to have a team. Well, many investors unknowingly sabotage their energy by trying to be the project manager, bookkeeper, leasing agent, designer, handyman, and the administrator all at once. The lack of prioritization drains energy faster than difficult projects. Investors who burnt out often share they were spending hours on low value tasks, cleaning units, chasing paperwork, handling minor repairs, while neglecting the strategic responsibilities that truly grow your wealth. Successful investors like you and I, hopefully, we embrace the concept of delegation. I think I'm there now where I try to delegate things that, I can do it probably, but it doesn't make any sense for me to do. So I can allow me to focus on more important things. We focus on high value tasks, things like financing, raising money, acquisition, making sure we get good deals, planning, strategy, and we try to outsource all the other things. Okay, so we understand that time is an asset. Time is an asset, and protecting it is essential for long-term sustainability. We hire assistants. I've got a couple of assistants, assistants, virtual assistants, task services, or even property managers for repetitive tasks. We try to use automation if possible to streamline communication, documentation. And also you have to learn when to say no. You can't always do everything. Refuse deals that don't align with your strategy. We turn down contracted drama. We just decide not to use or work with certain people. It just drains you. We value clarity over chaos. Our intentions over urgency. And because time is only what we got, it's survival. So when you only focus on tasks that move your portfolio forward, you stay energized, productive, and excited, hopefully, about your business. Yes, you do. Investors who master time protection scale faster and with far less stress. So that, my friends, is it. Let me just conclude today's session. The blueprint for staying lit and scaling successfully. What is the blueprint that we've covered today? How do I summarize everything? Well, scaling a residential real estate portfolio is as much an emotional journey as it is a financial one. Yes, it is. Investors who learn to protect their energy, streamline their systems, manage tenants efficiently, maintain clear boundaries, and develop mental resilience, we position ourselves or themselves for longevity, profitability, and personal well-being. Staying lit is not a motivational slogan, it's a strategic mindset that determines whether an investor thrives or burns out. Yes, it does. The investors who succeed over the long term are not the ones who avoid setbacks, but the ones who learn from them. We implement processes that lighten the workload, build routines that protect our mental clarity, and we make decisions rooted in strategy as opposed to stress. We understand, or hopefully you understand, that scaling requires discipline, structure, and emotional maturity, not just hustle and hard work. So this blueprint, which I shared today, hopefully will empower you to grow with confidence, clarity, and energy. It really does invite you to build your portfolios that produce cash flow without draining your spirit. And it also reinforces the truth. Success doesn't belong to the busiest investor. No, it doesn't. It belongs to the most energized, organized, and focused ones. So for every investor who wants to scale boldly, live fully, and build a portfolio that doesn't burn them out, well, today's live stream, I hope, has been your guide. So I will see you next Wednesday. Let's go down to, if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box. I'll get to you in a second. If you want to shoot me an email, you can reach me at joe@joeasimo.com. That's joe@joeasimo.com. And also, if you want to, you can book a one-on-one with me, where you go to my website, www.joeasimo.com, and you press on the button, Ask Dr. Joe. So that, my friends, is the session, the educational session today. Let's get down to some of the questions and comments that people have. Let's have a look. Okay, what have we got here? Greetings from Phoenix, Dr. Joe. Dow 2. Hey, man, how you doing? I hope all is well with you in sunny Phoenix. Happy holidays, Dr. Joe. Thanks for all that you do for us. What are your plans for the holiday season? This is Nestor Can. Nestor. Which one's Nestor? Well, I'm going to be in town. I'm not going anywhere this year. Well, not for the holiday season. I had a great Thanksgiving last Thursday. We spent time with friends, family. We had Thanksgiving at our house. I had a whole bunch of people come in. I also went to other people's houses as well. I must have gained a couple of pounds. So I've been working, trying to exercise all week and trying to exercise through the holiday season. But I will be here. I'm not planning on traveling. I'm probably going to do an overseas trip, probably February. Maybe go to Ghana for a few weeks towards the middle to latter part of February, I think. And God willing, I'll be able to visit more countries this year and do more travel. And as they say, enjoy the fruits of your labor. Okay, got some questions. Please put in the chat box. And let's have a look. V Hodges 1685. Dr. Joe, can you share some of the systems that you have in place to avoid burnout? Administrative tasks, bookkeeping, etc., repairs, inspections, etc. Okay, I'll share what I do. I have, let's have a look. Let's go down through administrative tasks. I have a virtual assistant. She's based in Ghana, in fact. We meet twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. And she helps me oversee a lot of the back office, behind the scenes kind of stuff, manage my portfolio and managing the business and so on. I mean, tracking things, making sure that the emails get sent out, making sure that rents are being tracked, making sure that reports are being created, making sure that I can track the overall health of my business. So that's I have a virtual assistant that does that. We typically meet twice a week, every Tuesday and every Friday. That's number one. Number two, so she's really the key person, my right hand person, I suppose. Another assistant, I have another administrative assistant. She's a bookkeeper, and she's based out in Canada. I've never actually met her, but I've worked with her for at least 10, 15 years, I think. So she does a lot of the bookkeeping. Obviously, if you own a portfolio, you've got to track the inflows and outflow of money. We use QuickBooks as the software the accounting software that you use to manage the portfolio and also to manage the overall business. She's pretty good. We have a chart of accounts and so on. So whenever money's spent, we track it. And we have to, with QuickBooks, you have to create classes. Classes are like, we use it for each property. And so if I have property A, property B, property C, then you create 3 classes for one, A, B, and C. And then that way it makes it easier to manage at least to compartmentalize your books and your businesses and so on. So I have properties that are owned by myself in my personal name. I got properties that are owned in entities and LLCs and things like that. So, that's how we track everything. So usually once a week or once every 2 weeks, she'll reconcile from what's going on in my bank accounts. She has access to my accounts and with what's going on in QuickBooks, and she'll categorize it based on the chart of accounts, and then she'll reconcile usually once a month. So that's the bookkeeper. The bookkeeper then does what she has to do, and I'm exploring using AI as well to help with that process. So that's the bookkeeper, and then we also have a CPA. So the bookkeeping and books, I suppose, get fed to the CPA. We do strategy sessions usually twice a year, and then the CPA will then do my taxes. I have another person on social media for Virtual assistant as well. He's based out of Ghana. Let's have a look. What else do I have? That's really the core group of people that I have. And obviously, to do rehabs, I have contractors. So I outsource a lot of the construction work to my contractors. I don't do any construction work. I'm not good at it. I mean, I know what needs to be done, but I'm just not very good doing it. I'd rather have professionals who know what they're doing do the work. So contractors, I have a team, a pretty extensive team, which has developed over the years. I develop relationships down with the folks down at the housing authorities because I do a lot of Section 8s, and it's really important to have relationships with these government bureaucracies. And but yeah, that's at a high level. Hopefully, I answer your question. In terms of repairs, I have home warranties on all my properties. I'm another lady that does the inspections. Biannual, once every or twice a year. She visits the properties and does the inspections of my rental properties to make sure that my tenants are happy and to make sure that my tenants are taking care of my properties. What else do I have? That's about it, really. So yeah, so hopefully I answer your question, V Hodges. So if I haven't, feel free to send a follow-up message. Let's have a look what's going on Instagram. A virtual assistant in Ghana. Can you share more on that? Okay. Yeah. So what I do, virtual assistants are pretty much can be done from it. There are certain activities that can be done anywhere. They don't have to be performed, here locally, in your town. All you need is somebody who's skilled, competent, has access to the internet, has good work ethic, a computer, obviously, and have a mindset of good work ethic. So I have a virtual assistant. She's based out of Ghana, and I was able to find her through my sister. And originally we started her off on a few hours, but as time went by, we've kind of increased the hours. So yeah, she does a lot of the back office stuff. We meet twice a week on Zoom, and essentially it's obviously it's to me it works out fine. I can go to the details about how I have trained her to take on some of the tasks that I would do. But I think that's probably outside the scope of this session. But that's how I do it. It's a virtual assistant and based in Ghana. And I also have another virtual assistant based in Ghana who does a lot of the website and also the social media. Okay, hopefully I answered your question. Kidizzle. Okay, let's have a look. Oh boy, I'll tell you, I'm getting tired. It's 7:40 already. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. So let's wrap it up for today. Get some rest. Get ready for Christmas season. Hopefully today was informative. Hopefully it was helpful. On your journey towards financial freedom. Again, feel free to shoot me an email. I can be reached at joe@joeasamoah.com. That is joe@joeasamoah.com. Let's have a look at this one here. Yep. And also you can see me next Wednesday, same time, 7 p.m. for another hopefully interesting, informative Wealth Wednesday. So take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye for now.